Sae'Von Springer is the owner and founder of Native Assets. Any views expressed by Sae'Von or his guests are their own thoughts and opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Native Assets or the guest's respective employer. Any guest appearance by representatives of Web3, NFT, crypto, or any other kind of organization does not constitute an endorsement by Native Assets or the guest's respective employer. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be mistaken as financial advice. Always conduct your own due diligence and consult a qualified professional when considering any investments of any kind. Great day, great day. Welcome back to the show. Today is, in a way, it's a spiritual successor to a conversation we had a few weeks back with Gaby Araujo of Third Web, because there was a lot of feedback that episode talking about marketing and community building, which are two different things, but they do go hand in hand. That was really helpful for a lot of y'all. So today I'm glad to be joined by Miss Gaby Araujo of Bueno, and this is going to be a good one. I've been looking forward to it. So Gaby, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about all things marketing, NFTs, and Web3. And yeah, like you said, I'm head of marketing at Bueno, and let's get to it.
Yes. So if you could just give people a little bit of a breakdown of what Bueno is and then what you do at Bueno.
Of course. So Bueno is a very powerful toolkit for NFT creators that takes them through the life cycle of an NFT project. So let's say you will see a tool for art generation. You will have another one, which is the smart contract deployer. And we also offer something that we call forms, which is basically like, let's say, a Google form, but we have Web3 features. So you will be able to verify Discord roles, a wallet connect to gather wallets from your collectors or your audience in general. And we also have another product, which is called the Microverse. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but it's basically a 2D world builder, which is collaborative as well. So you can be editing your world while people are visiting it. So that's like a very brief description of everything we're building. And we launched Bueno, I think it was around December 2021. So it's almost a year. We went out of beta, I think, in May. So, and I run marketing at Bueno. We are a team of around 30 people from all over the world. And it's been an interesting industry, I must say. I first entered the NFT and Web3 space in September 2021. So like 1 year and a little bit more. And yeah, I mean, if you have any questions of the specifics, I think we can give you more details.
Oh yeah, of course. You know, we got plenty of time to sit here and pull at the threads. And one thing that as I was doing my research just on you, I went and I saw that Bueno is actually, it came out of Blush. Is that correct?
That's true. So for those of you who don't know what Blush is an illustration library, but it's also more than that, because you can actually customize all the illustrations. Like if I think about it, I actually feel like it's like an NFT before NFTs existed, because you can change the eyes, you can change like the positions, like you have a bunch of traits. So it's very like flexible. It gives you flexibility as a creator, and it's amazing because, let's be real, not everyone has a big budget when it comes to launching a new product. So if you cannot hire like a designer or an illustrator, then you just go to Blush, pay a subscription, or even just download them for free at a lower quality, and you can use them. No need to give us credits or anything. So we launched Blush during the pandemic. May 2020.
Really? Damn, I thought it was way older than that.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, that's wild. But that also makes sense, because I feel like around that same period, I was noticing that like all these brands were shifting over to that style that Blush provides of like 2D, kind of like pop colored. And yeah, that was excellent timing.
Yeah, totally. So Blush grew pretty fast, to be honest. We still have so many users, and the platform is running. So if you want to check it out, just go to Blush Design. And then reality is Pablo Stanley is the founder of Blush, and he decided to explore NFTs in June 2021 as a side project. Like, hey, I'm an artist. This looks very interesting. I want to give it a try. And he decided to create Robotos, which is an NFT collection of 10K droids. And reality is, it went pretty well. I would say that it was not the very, very beginning of NFTs, but kind of before the boom.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it sold out. And also Pablo realized, like, hey, I'm just doing this with a developer. I need a team. Like, I actually need to run the community. I need marketing. I need partnerships. Like, this is a lot more work than I thought it would be. So since I've been working with Pablo for a while, he told me, like, hey, do you want to help me with this? And that's where I came in. And then Pablo said, as an artist, I struggle so much with all the technical aspects of launching an NFT. I feel like there's an opportunity for us to make it a simpler experience for creators. Like, you don't need to know a lot about Solidity, or you don't need to know about blockchain to be able to create a collection or just mint your art on the blockchain. And that's the reason why we decided to create Bueno. And that has been our focus for the last year or so.
Talk about moving quickly. I think it takes a lot of conviction.
Totally. Move fast and break things.
Yeah.
We are very much like that.
Yeah, no. And even the, we'll talk about some of the individual products y'all have. But when I saw the microverse thing, that was probably what surprised me the most. And I know you described it a few minutes ago, but anybody who might be familiar with the World Wide Web or any sort of like top-down Animal Crossing sort of vibes, it's something that, when you look at the PFP collection or creator, and then you look at the forms, those things make a lot of sense to me hand in hand. But then when you look at the microverse, it's like, okay, you wouldn't naturally necessarily make the assumption that the same sort of company would make that. But at the same time, I think we are getting this era, and this is something I want to talk to you about, where, at least me personally, right? I look at a lot of these collections and I feel like the PFP is almost like, next to a POAP, the lowest bar. Not to say it's not a lot of work that goes into it, but there was this window of time where if you made a 10K collection, you was probably going to make some decent bread if you just got it out there and you had a few people who knew about it, the right people retweet it. But by creating this microverse tool that y'all have, it's a way to actually extend the utility and the dynamics around that PFP collection. And in my mind, maybe that's like an interim step. Maybe eventually y'all transition over to 3D, which is like a whole nother beast from 2D. But yeah, I really admired the courage to kind of make that shift. And I'm curious, from your perspective, you're already working with artists with Blush, so you kind of have a built-in community. A lot of those same artists might have been thinking to themselves like, damn, I want to get into NFTs. It's a bit complicated. How do I do it? Y'all drop Bueno, you have this tool, and it's okay, bet, easy. But then you start to pull out these other things. So how were you navigating the go-to-market to actually get this into people's hands and to try to also simultaneously educate them on what it was? Because I imagine that some artists are like, oh my God, NFTs are amazing. And some other artists are like, this is devaluing what we're doing. This shit is trash, da-da-da-da-da. So what was that like?
So that's actually a very good question, because if you know, a lot of people are skeptical about NFTs. Like, yeah. I would even say most people still are. And reality is, when Pablo told me, I was like, oh, Pablo, NFTs, like,
yeah.
Because you read all these headlines like, oh yeah, NFTs are damaging the earth, NFTs are just JPEGs and all of that. I understand people, and of course, when I enter the space, then I saw things differently. But it's kind of difficult to make people shift their minds that quickly. So let's say that we actually didn't rely too much on our Blush database, like users. We actually just thought about, hey, Pablo has been growing his presence in the space. I think that back then Pablo just had like 50K followers, and then he grew over to like 100K, which of course helped us attract people to our product. And we also were relying on the communities that we knew. For example, we helped launch Wonderpulse, which is an NFT project. So that also gave us a lot of visibility. In a way, we were looking for partnerships and for artists who were already interested in the space. Let's say that those were kind of early adopters and they would have converted way too quick. So we didn't really reach out to all of our Plus users. And actually, most of them got back to us like, I don't care about NFTs. That's a scam. I don't want to know anything about this. So, it's a process. I feel like we have been trying to reach the, let's say, non-crypto natives, but that's where the challenge is. Like, we don't want to focus only on the people that know about NFTs, because let's be real, that's a very small group. And we want to bring others, like, on board the normal ones, the artists, the normal ones. Well, everyone is normal, but the normies. That's what I wanted to say.
No, we big on free speech here.
Yeah. So, for example, we were partnering with Dribble, which is the largest community of artists, creatives, designers, and we actually did an amazing workshop there. And more like thousands of people registered for that workshop.
Damn.
But most of them didn't know anything about a crypto wallet. So most of them didn't get to use the tool. They were just curious about how it worked, and maybe they would come back later. But yeah, it's just an example of the friction that exists for artists who are not familiar with the NFT space to actually enter the space.
Okay, so let's pull at that, because friction, right? It's sometimes in life we like friction. When I'm walking down the stairs, I love friction, so I don't bust my ass. But it's something like crypto, you try and get somebody into what you're doing, the friction is problematic. How then do you solve that problem? Because, you said it's about 30 of y'all. You might have a couple people helping you out, but you're the head of marketing. So really, I feel like when people, Pablo's going, he's looking at the conversion rates and the funnels, and, if the number's hitting, it's on you. If the number's missing, that's on you. So how did you wrap your head around knowing that, like, hey, in one way we have the perfect demographic, but we also have like the same demographic of people who hate NFTs. So you mentioned workshops and a lot of people showed up, but the wallet thing kind of was a disconnect. How else have you gone about building out that audience? And I imagine some of that is like sponsorships, but I want to pull a thread out because that's actually how I heard about y'all. But just how do you make sense of all of that to actually drive the right people that you want to get after to Bueno?
Well, first of all, I would say like the product needs to be user-friendly for those who don't know anything about crypto. And right now, if you go to Bueno, you actually have to connect with a wallet, and that's something that we have been thinking about. Yeah, it's like there's a problem, and we know it. So I feel like the main problem in the Web3 space is that we are a little bit resistant about like Web2 stuff. Like, hey, there's nothing wrong about having an email login, or maybe you want something else, but that exists, and it exists for a reason. So just don't get rid of it. Use it as well. Maybe you want to give people the opportunity to connect with a wallet or with an email. So those are things that we are exploring, as well as supporting payments with credit cards, for example. Like, maybe you don't want to pay 1 ETH to generate a collection. Maybe you want to pay with your credit card. Those are things that we feel from a product perspective will help us onboard more people. And on the other side, well, we're trying to escape a little bit from the Web3 niche, and trying to, for example, go to conferences that are for artists. Like this month, we're actually going to DesignerCon, which is one of the largest conferences for designers in California. So those are some of the approaches that we have been taking. And when it comes to sponsoring as well, it's all about finding a balance, because you don't want to forget about the people who are in this space. So yeah, for example, we have been exploring with newsletters for designers, but also for crypto people. And those things have been working pretty well.
Mm. And then Bankless is actually how I heard about y'all. The Bankless sponsorship.
See? That's amazing. That's one of the, so Bankless, we did it, we started this month, or even in October, like mid-October. And then we were also exploring some newsletters. Like, I would recommend people that are listening. Peter Young has an amazing newsletter. He's a product lead at Reddit. And all those like strategies actually work. We are exploring ads, but I can't share results yet. I'm not a big fan of ads, but let's see if it works. Maybe in a few months I can let you know.
What's your aversion to ads?
Yeah, so I'm a very big fan of
organic.
We're really good at content, and when it comes to SEO, we have a very big presence on search engines, which is driving a lot of traffic. And usually people who come from Google are way more qualified than those that are coming from the ads that we're running. So for us, ads have been helpful. On TikTok, we actually started doing like TikTok ads, and it's been interesting because it's not like Twitter or Discord where you can find a lot of NFT people. So you will actually get a lot of hate. Like, why are you in the NFT business? What are you doing? You're destroying the planet. So you try to moderate the conversation. But it's been great to get other type of audiences check out Bueno. But that's still an experiment.
No, I imagine. And I feel like that's one of the main things that your job really is testing things out. You know, what's the copy like this way? What's the copy like that way? The hero image looks like this if it looks like that. So I think that's a natural part, regardless of if it's Web3, Web2, whatever. You know, these are kind of baseline practices for marketing. Now, something else that I was curious your thoughts on, the community angle of it. Is that something that you also head up, or is there a separate like head of community at Bueno?
So that's also a really great question. We have I don't lead community efforts, but we do have a team that is running Twitter Spaces, Discord stages, and it's also very connected with the customer success team. So they work very hand in hand. And in this case, most of our community efforts are focused on Discord, which is very active, I would say. Like, sometimes I check other Discords from tools that are similar to ours or are at least in the same space. And ours gets a lot of traction. And Twitter Spaces. We host Twitter Spaces every week, at least like twice every week. And we have like so many random topics. Like, sometimes we feature artists that are using Bueno, or sometimes maybe we're just having like a mental health space because why not? But yeah, we do work together when it comes to, for example, a partnership. We did a partnership with Piñata IPFS. And in those cases, whenever we have like workshops for the community, we do partner with our community team so that they can host them and teach people about Bueno.
Okay. So workshops, pull up on conferences that aren't just about Web3, because there's probably a lot less competition, one, and then two, it's just a different audience, probably a larger audience. Run spaces, fortify the community. Don't just have the spaces be about the product, have it be about things about life that people are connecting to, and organic. Now, with verbiage, language, that's another big key in marketing. And I think we've noticed with Reddit, where they were like, hey, you know, I remember going on Reddit last year and just doing a little bit of perusing, and the vitriol towards NFTs, that shit was at an all-time high. It was wild. And now you've seen these converts, you got millions of people on Reddit creating NFTs, but all Reddit did was say, no, these aren't NFTs, these are digital collectibles. And that's obviously a little bit of a bait and switch, a little bit of a finesse. How do you feel about that language switch, if you've tried it at all? And kind of in the same spirit of like organic versus paid. It feels like calling it an NFT is what it is, but I wouldn't go as far as saying calling it a digital collectible is disingenuous. But what are your thoughts?
So digital collectibles and NFTs, yeah, it's been a fun topic because I've seen so many memes and I don't buy it if it's an NFT, but I buy it if it's a digital collectible.
Yeah.
So it's funny, but at the same time, I feel like similar to what I was telling you before. I just feel like most people hate or associate the term NFT to something that is negative.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe shifting to those like digital collectible words or things that are not just so like sometimes I feel like verbiage in the Web3 space is just too complex. Like
Too technical.
why mint, why everything. It's just like everything. We have a glossary actually, and it's like I remember when I joined, like what is alpha? What is a whale? Why diamond hands? And a lot of them come from the crypto space.
Yeah.
So yeah, we actually try. We're trying. That's part of our. Let's say that we are redoing a lot of things, and one of them is the messaging that we're using. I wouldn't say that we are going to get rid of the word NFT. We are still going to use it because if someone is on Google and if someone types say NFT, that person is probably a high qualified lead that will convert. So we still want that people, but we're trying to simplify the language. So yeah, I do agree that that's something that most people should change, most companies, but let's see. Some people say that that's not the problem and that we should keep using the words that we use. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. What do you think about it? Do you think that that's something that will help?
I don't know. I do think that it is primarily the fact that the word triggers so many things for people because of the connotation. Like most people had never heard of the term until last year, probably until about halfway through last year, if not like Q3 of 2021. And when they're hearing it, they're only hearing about it in relationship to Bored Ape Yacht Club. They're hearing it in relationship to killing the environment. They're hearing it in relationship to all of these negative things, and it's just basic psychology. It's conditioning. If you put, am I back now?
You are.
Okay, you froze, but you were smiling, so it was flattering. You know, I don't know how I froze up,
nice.
But yeah, I just like try to keep the cadence because I never exactly know on the recording side. But yeah, I do think by and large it's a connotation thing, and so much of what people have associated with the word NFT is either related to this is harmful for the environment, or it's some other feeling of like envy and jealousy because these people on the internet spent $50, $100 on something that turned into 100,000, and they're doing all this hard work day in, day out, and somebody made all of this money off of a fucking ape. And so there's like this jealousy in this, like, that's not fair. So I do think that delineation, while we're in this new era and there's not so much of that FOMO where people are just seeing new folks win day in, day out, is like a reset for their psychology and gets their adrenals dropped a bit. But practically speaking, to your point, when it comes to SEO, people who are really in the hole, they're not going to start searching digital collectible. So yeah, I think it's much more of the what do I actually do to get into this space? And a lot of that is around the wallets. It's around the rest of the terminology, like minting, all these other things that really you can use a much simpler word for. So yeah, I don't think y'all need to change anything. I just think Reddit had a particularly different fight that they were battling. So they shifted the game a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Totally, I agree.
So, having recently jumped into the space late last year, what is something that has surprised you the most since you've been focusing, more of your attention and more of your energy on the space? It can be good, it can be bad, it can be neutral. Just like what has surprised you?
Well, good things. I was very surprised about the communities and all the people like moving and engaging because of a collection, for example. That for me was like very, I don't know, difficult to understand in a way maybe because I've never been part of like digital communities like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been amazing, to be honest. I mean, we went to many events like in real life, not in the metaverse.
Yeah.
And we actually met amazing people, like so many different backgrounds. And I felt like, in a way, I discovered the power that community has, and particularly in the NFT space, I feel like everyone tries to help each other. So, positively speaking, community has been something that I've really enjoyed. On the other hand, negatively speaking, at the very beginning, I was a little bit surprised at how entitled were some collectors.
Mm.
Sometimes, like, I don't know, it felt weird. It's like when you work at a company, you wouldn't usually get your, I don't know, investors calling you out every day if the, I don't know, if the stock is not how you want. It was just, honestly, it was a little bit weird, and it affects you. You know, if you always have people telling you like, hey, this is what I think you should do. You're not tweeting enough. You are not, I don't know, you're not posting enough announcements. I don't know why your floor is so low. It was a little bit stressful, to be honest, for me and for most team members. Like, I think we were all going through a imposter, like we all had it, like imposter syndrome. Like, am I good at what I'm doing? Maybe I just suck, you know? So yeah, in a way, I feel like we learn from that. And I feel like you just need to know that not everyone will be happy with your project. And you need to try and deal with that as better as you can. And yeah, just accept the reality that sometimes the project doesn't go as you plan it to. And then you just need to adjust and try and do the best you can. So yeah, in a way, that was a little bit surprising to me. But other than that, yeah, that's what comes to my mind right now.
I think the reason for that is because things are so compressed and magnified in this space. It's like something that the internet can do, where it's like the speed at which information moves, the brazen people feel more emboldened on the internet because they don't actually have to look at Gabby in the face and say this shit. They can just like type it, hit send, and then throw the joint. You know, so it's like you can engage in conflict without having to actually be in the conflict in the same sort of way, without the same feeling of the repercussions. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is how you actually manage communications with people who are maybe being a bit unreasonable, being jerks, being assholes, because these are your community. And sometimes you might be in a situation where the person being the biggest jerk is the biggest holder, is the biggest whale. And, you know, so they kind of have this feeling of like, well, if you don't do this, I'm fucking dumping. And that can't hurt the project. So have you been in any situations like that? And how do you try to gracefully manage those expectations to reiterate to people like, hey, you're not stockholders. You don't own this company. And truth be told, we don't have to do a whole lot of shit.
So yeah, I remember a couple of cases in which we actually had two whales, but one particularly, which always, I mean, he was dumping all the time, so there was nothing we could do about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had difficult members, and in a way, I feel like we have tried to be as transparent as we want. Like, for example, you know that in the NFT space, you have communities of different types. Like, for example, you have communities that are a little bit more focused on investing. Sorry about that.
You good.
Okay,
Sound like a dog.
those are my
something.
dogs. Yeah. So you have communities that are a little bit more focused on investing. And then you have other communities that are maybe a little bit more focused on art. And in the case of Robotos, we were a little bit more focused on that, like on creative art collaborations with other artists. And some people just didn't see the value in it. Or some people just would expect you to become the next Disney in like 5 months, which is unreasonable. But it was very common. So to be honest, I feel like we were very transparent. Hey, you know, this is what we're planning to do. This is the roadmap. And if you don't like it, well, we're sorry. Like, we were trying to solve that gracefully, But I feel like we didn't really wanted to have people that were toxic in the community if they didn't like what we were building, because at the end of the day, that was going to be the case every time we didn't meet their expectations. So yeah, it's just a matter of being transparent. Hey, this is what we're doing, and if you like it, stay with us. If you don't see the value, well, we're happy to have you, but what can you do?
Yeah, I think that's the most reasonable way to deal with it. Yeah, you don't want those sort of people in your community anyway, so gotta just let them bounce
Yeah.
and let the chips fall where they may. What is the number one biggest piece of advice you would give to marketers or people trying to take their product to market?
So my first piece of advice is that there are like people try to compare Web 2 and Web 3 too much. I try not to. So I remember when we started Bueno, we were way too focused on Twitter and Discord. But then let's be real that there are so many things you could be doing beyond that. Like, don't forget about email marketing. Don't forget about other social medias like TikTok, for example. Uh, don't forget about all the things that you did before Web3. Because a lot of people tend to just do, hey, Twitter is where the NFT people are. That's all I'm going to do. And I feel like that's a big mistake. You should be looking outside of that. So that's what I always try to tell everyone. Um, and and yeah, is there like a specific marketing curiosity that you have for Web3 projects?
I mean, I don't consider myself personally a marketer other than the fact that most of the things I have built and worked on, like even native assets, I do by myself effectively. So it's like I have to think about it from the marketing angle. And what you just mentioned about not being so pigeonholed is interesting because I try not to go too extreme in the other way of saying, like, hey, don't think about Web3 as being so separate from Web2, even though there are very different practices, because then you can find yourself in a position where you are throwing out so much of what's been useful and has worked for such a long time, like email marketing, content marketing. But as far as like the platforms, personally, and I think this is more of a question of bandwidth, is trying to focus on like one platform at a time and get established there. So it's not like a bunch of kind of, you have 100 units of energy and you're doling out, 10 units of energy to 10 different places instead of saying, hey, I got one place, we're going to do 100% here. When we get established, we'll translate some of that to another platform. So I guess if it's not Twitter, what would you say is the most important channel for Bueno that you've seen? I checked out your YouTube. You got some strong numbers on some of those videos. Maybe it's your blog, but what would you say has been the best ROI channel for y'all?
So one of the best channels for us is definitely the blog. Yeah, the blog. We just get so much organic traffic every month. And it's true that we have been. So the thing about organic is that it doesn't happen from one day to the other, right? You need to be consistent and you need to post a lot of articles. So we started, I think, in January, and we have published around 52 blogs, for example. And we have a little bit of everything. We have case studies, which do not drive a lot of organic traffic. That's mostly like social proof and, hey, this is what people are building with Bueno. The ones that are performing really great are mostly educational topics like, hey, this is what a smart contract is, or these are the basics of allow lists. The glossary, glossary is a great one, and also the marketing guide that we have in there. It's driving a bunch of traffic. So those, in a way, are amazing, and we published that like 10 months ago. And like in terms of numbers, I can tell you it's more than 10,000 people every month. So I encourage everyone to try and invest in content, at least if it is like you said, hey, I don't have the resources or the bandwidth to focus on too many things, because it's true, we are a team. we have different people focusing on different stuff. So we can do it. We started with the blog, then we moved to our newsletter, which is also a very amazing tool. Like, for example, you have a podcast, maybe there's like an opportunity for you to send your podcasts as newsletter format.
I do every week.
Yeah, you see, every week. So, and there's a tool that we're using right now, which is like a newsletter referral program. And it's been really nice as well. Hey, here's your referral code. Maybe we change rewards every week to encourage people to share our newsletter. So in the case of the Bueno newsletter, we have offered ebooks, which have been great, but not amazing.
Mm-hmm. As like a lead magnet?
Yeah, it is a lead magnet. Exactly, yeah. And we want to start offering swag, which I think will help us grow the newsletter way faster. And we have been experimenting with some allow lists, and it's driving way more subscribers than we had before. So that's a good way of spreading the word about your newsletter. Hey, this is your link. You will get this if you share that with your friends and they subscribe.
More. What platform do y'all publish the newsletter through?
So we do a little bit of everything. I would recommend, if you don't have any like HTML experience, you can use MailChimp. That's the easiest, drag and drop, and it's perfect. And then you can send it from there. In our case, we use a language that it's called MGML because it's very mobile friendly. It's very small in terms of size, so it loads pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you need to know a little bit of coding. But once you have a template, it's very easy to replace the information in the HTML. And after that, we put it on Customer.io, which is an email automation tool. And then we send our newsletters to all the subscribers. And for the referral program, if you are curious, you can use SparkLoop.
SparkClip?
SparkLoop.
SparkLoop.
Yeah.
Okay, bet. I'm going to ask a few more like nitty-gritty questions just because we got to that point. What would you say is, for y'all, I know it's not going to be the same for everybody, but you're dialing in this shit every day. What's the best day of the week to send the newsletter, the best time, and how do you think about the length of the newsletter? And then where you are placing the call to actions relative to the content.
Okay, so first one was... my memory is horrible.
No, I'm sure it's not. I just asked a lot of damn things in one question. The day and the time.
Day and time. Okay. So we usually do it on Wednesdays. And I would say that day, it's not really about the day, but again, it's about being consistent. Like, people expect to receive the newsletter on a specific day. And if you put that on their minds, it will be like, okay, today I'm going to get your newsletter. I am expecting it. And the same with the time. But what I do recommend with the time is that not everyone lives in the US. Like, sometimes if your company is in the US, you would assume that everyone needs to get the newsletter at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Some newsletter platforms, email platforms, allow you to actually send the newsletter at their specific
local
time. So, for example, totally. So, for example, if it's 6 a.m., it's going to be 6 a.m. for you in Eastern time, and for me in Europe. That's very clever. And for me, the best time is the morning. And you are about to wake up. You never know at what time people wake up, but let's assume that 7 a.m. is probably a really good time. That's what works for us. We have a decent open rate, I would say. Anything that is above 35% is good.
Okay. And I know headlines are often really important because it's like you might see the title, then it's like, cool, what is this teaser? Get me in there. So then the actual length of the newsletter, is this something that like you want people to be able to digest in 30 seconds? Is it 2 minutes? Are you really just giving them a link to the longer form content so that they have to go to the website? How do you think about that?
So this is actually an interesting question. It really depends on what you're looking for. For example, if we have like a product launch and we just want to have one call to action, we of course we will make sure that we don't overload people with way more information that we want, because truth is the links that are the bottom will get way less clicks than those that are like above the folder, which is basically when you open the email and the first links you see. Those get the highest CTR. So that's where the most important information needs to be. But the format of our newsletter it's a little bit informational. We don't really expect, or we don't really ask users to do so much for us. We try to make it useful for them so that they keep reading it. And if we have something to promote, then we are sure that they are going to check it out. We have an intro, which is very like speak like you talk, funny, topical to what's going on in the space. And then we have a section with news, which usually leads you to the article if you want to read about it. And then we usually have different sections, like for example, maybe an update on what we have, the new features that we have, or maybe made with Bueno project, or maybe an essay, which talks about, I don't know, this week we were talking about royalties because everyone is talking about it, but we tried to put it in
context,
like, to summarize, what was happening. So yeah, it's really depends about your goal. But if you want more clicks, just remember to put it above the fold, like what people see when they open, basically.
Okay, great, and I appreciate that. I'm definitely gonna play around with some of that, and that point about it's sending in everybody's local time. I use Substack. I don't know if that's how it defaults, but I'm very curious to check that out now because that's kind of like a no-brainer if you can't have that.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of sense. Somebody's getting their email at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So as we wrap this up, I like to kind of just like rapid fire a little bit from time to time. And so if you're cool with that, we'll go ahead and do a little bit of that. And then you can let the people know where they can find you. And then we will jump off. Cool?
Perfect.
Okay. What is something that you feel is underrated in Web3?
Something that is underrated in Web3. Wow, that's a very good question. Let me think about it. Underrated in Web3. I feel like I'm thinking about it as art. Probably one of one artist, maybe. I feel like big collections have been getting a lot of attention because they are the ones that are supposed to provide you with the most utility. But I don't know. I like art. I feel like one of one artist should get way more attention. So in a way, I feel like they might be underrated. Same with photographers. But yeah, that's what I can think of.
Who's an artist that comes to mind, a one-of-one artist that people should check out?
The one that comes to mind is too popular. Let me think about another one. Well, the one that comes to mind is DK. You know DK. I feel like everyone knows DK. DK. Yeah, but you see those? Yeah, those are like kind of one of ones. But the big animations are amazing.
Oh yeah, like the life of the
Yeah, the other one is Amir. He makes toy faces. He's amazing. He makes like Lego faces of famous people. I love his art. He's amazing.
Okay. What's something that's overrated?
Something that is overrated? I guess PFP collections.
I appreciate you keeping it a buck. I was like, do I say this? Do I not? This is Gaby's opinion, not Bueno's opinion.
Exactly.
Okay.
But maybe, yeah, I feel like they will transition to something else. Maybe they are a boom right now. Maybe, I don't know, music NFTs will be the next thing. Who knows?
Yeah. I did like a hella long video you should check out. I am convinced that music NFTs are going to pop. And so I got to start pushing more of my music out to Web3. That'll probably actually be one of the next videos I put out, just to tutorial you some of these protocols. What has surprised you the most this year in Web3?
What has surprised me the most in Web3?
Or recently. It doesn't have to be this year, just recently.
Yeah, so I would say the market, how fast everything crashed, to be honest. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it because I was new to crypto and everything. So I was really pumped. Like this is amazing. This is the best space ever. And then suddenly it was like the energy was gone. A lot of people left. It was like, oh wow,
you stuck around.
Okay. But I feel it's normal. It's a way of, I don't know, adjusting the crazy expectations that everyone had from the space. So in a way, it was good as well.
So why did you stay around?
I really believe in, NFTs as a way to push the creator economy, which I'm a very big fan of. Like, hey, maybe you don't really want to work for a company. Maybe you just want to have in this case, this is not NFT related, but your Twitch channel, your Patreon, and NFTs fit in there, right? Like, hey, you're an artist, you just want to create art, or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you partner with someone and launch an NFT collection, and people are supporting you because they like what you're doing. Maybe you're not providing a utility, but I don't know, they're there because they want to support you. So yeah, that's why I really believe in the future of NFTs as a way to support more creators. And I hope we can keep building tools to help creators at Bueno.
Where do you get your Web3 news?
Web3 news. Okay, that's good. I get my Web3 news from, I listen to the Bankless podcast. And I'm also subscribed to a newsletter, which is from Morning Brew, and it's new actually, which is called In Crypto. So it's a very quick summary of everything that is happening, and you get it every morning. So it's amazing. For me, that's the best way. I mean, I like to read a lot, so maybe that's not for everyone, but that's the one that I usually recommend.
Okay. And what is your biggest hope for this space?
Well, I hope that it moves a little bit faster than we think in terms of bringing more and more creators to the space, more people, not only creators, but also investors and people in general that are interested in exploring NFTs. Because right now it feels like a very small space. And I feel like every company that is in the Web3 space just wants to onboard millions of people. And I feel like that's a common goal, like within every company in the Web3 space. So I hope that happens not in 10 years, but maybe 3.
Yeah, I feel that. And what is something that you're grateful for today?
I am grateful for being here, really. Like in general, I feel like life can get so complicated sometimes. So I'm grateful I have a job. A lot of people are getting laid off. And yeah, I'm grateful for that, for having an amazing team. I love what I do. Sometimes I have friends who hate their jobs, but I see my job as something that I really enjoy doing, and I'm grateful for that.
Love it. Well, Gaby, I appreciate you taking the time, making the time for this conversation. And before we get out of here, if you can let the people know where they can find you and where they can get started using Bueno.
Yeah, perfect. So you can check out Bueno at bueno.art. Follow us on Twitter at Bueno NFT, and join our Discord as well. We always are hosting events or workshops. And for me, you can follow me on Twitter as well, I guess, Gaby Gabs. And that's it. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
Bye.
Peace.
You niggas ain't cheat me to reenact the TV. I'm a real life shot caller. You niggas just shoot at the breeze. I can shoot at your knees. 1 cap, 2 cap, my cat. Go blind, producing near load of facts. Catch a skeleton around the map. See, I terrorize like it's getting more. Cause I theorize at higher tempo. But you been on in my modo. I'm a random, I'm in the get roll. Get dope, then go, so I die. Whether I'm meant to the other side. And I'm talking about hella high. Know what I'm saying? Like the most of, in the way that's for a letter day. What you got going on Saturday? I might gotta play.